It all goes back to family, I suppose. When my brother died, my family's honor died with him. I never really cared for duty or prestige when I was younger. James was always expected to take the Verenthall mantle. I was more of an afterthought. I never minded. It let me enjoy the warmth of the sun and the company of my schoolmates. But when James failed to return, it suddenly fell to me. The warmth of the sun turned into the cold stone floor of a library. The company of my friends turned into the rigor of training exercises with priests. I was to take up the vows, study Saloon and her teachings, and eventually try and bring honor to my family in service of Saloon. During training, I was told I showed promise in coerced conversion. That means knocking heads when somebody steps too far out of line. I was selected to try a more rigorous training method. Hooray for me. Tandra. Tandra was my trainer. She brought me to the Silver Star grounds and showed me a lot of fighting techniques and styles. I tended to just whack things as hard as I could. She said it was an inelegant solution, but hey, it seemed to be effective, so I trained. A few months in, I had started to feel a bit more at home. The Silver Star training was far more difficult than I had experienced, but more interesting. Less history and prayer and more direct and spirited. Learned how to take a beating and how to dish one out. Learned how to resist interrogation and less nice, learned how to enforce compliance. That's about the time I met Bartholomew. Somewhat less direct and more invested in his studies, we had fairly different methods. We became friends immediately. He showed promise in the application of various ceremonies, and I learned more from watching him practice than I did in my months of training as a priest. During a visit to a tomb to help hone my sensation of the forces of magic and Bart's ability to perform burial rites, the process went wrong. I left my weapons and shield above. If I had brought them with me and maybe been a little bit more vigilant, then something about the new entries into the crypts caused the spell to turn and breathe life into the bodies buried around us. Every corpse in the tomb suddenly smelled of undeath, foul and sour, and they fell upon me as we tried to escape. One of the sconces overturned, and we found ourselves in utter darkness. I grabbed the nearest rotting body and ripped its arm from the socket and proceeded to beat down each corpse that approached. I swung and I swung, shouting for Bart to run the whole time. Tandra heard, and when she opened the stair door, light finally poured in. She found me, bloody and surrounded by twitching corpses that I had beaten until their muscles pulled on pulverized bone. Bartholomew had not made it to the door. As the inciter of the ritual, they had targeted him and, well, he didn't make it. I learned two things that day. The dangers of the unholy magics that toy with the schemes of life and death. And that sometimes to protect that which you care for, you must lose sight of protecting yourself.